Hello everyone. Hey guys, welcome to Ask IITians. So this is the last lecture, that is lecture number 4 of understanding quadrilaterals of class 8. So as in the previous classes, previous lectures, we have discussed what are polygons, what are the types of polygons, and how they are classified into convex polygons, concave polygons, regular, irregular. Then we also talked about quadrilaterals, right? Different types of quadrilaterals we discussed, that is square, rectangle, parallelogram, kite, rhombus, and all of that, trapezium, right? So we would be continuing that. So in the today's class, we would be talking about first square and its properties in a detailed manner, and apart from that, we would be also learning a tree diagram and properties of quadrilateral, like summed up in together. All right, this is what we will be concluding the chapter with today. All right, so let's begin without wasting any more time. Let's begin with properties of square. So first of all, we know what is a square. A square is a quadrilateral, or to be more specific, a square is a parallelogram, right? A square is a parallelogram with all sides equal. A square is a parallelogram with all sides equal and all angles as 90 degrees. Each interior angle is measured as 90 degrees, right? Diagonals are equal and perpendicular bisectors of each other. So diagonals of a square are also equal, that is AC and BD, and they are equal, right? And also, so parallelogram, square is a parallelogram with all sides equal. Uh, so as we discussed, that diagonals are also equal in a square and are perpendicular bisectors of each other. So AC is equal to BD. Then every square is a parallelogram in which diagonals are congruent and bisect the angles. Now, what do we mean by this? That bisect the angles? It means it bisects the angles at vertices. मतलब angle A, angle B, angle C, and angle D, which means these angles are equal, right? These angles are equal, right? So apart from this, we would be saying that every square is a rectangle also and a rhombus also, because in the previous class we had seen that rectangles have opposite sides equal and all angles are 90 degrees. So all those properties of rectangle are satisfied by the square, right? And also all the properties of rhombus are being satisfied by the square. So we would say for a rhombus also all sides are equal. So you would say, yeah, in a square all sides are already equal. Diagonals are perpendicular bisectors in a rhombus, and therefore they are in the square also. So we would say this is a very important statement, that every square is a rectangle and is a rhombus also, right? And we had also discussed that area of a square is side into side, that is side square. Perimeter of the square is 4 into side, 4 into side, right? So we had discussed these things about properties of square. Based on this, let's quickly solve a question, right? So area of a square is 16 centimeters square. This is given to us, area of a square. So we would say we have just now discussed the formula of area of a square, which is just side square. So therefore, side will be equal to 16 centimeter, right? Also find the perimeter of the square. So perimeter of square is 4 into side, 4 into side. So here the side is 16, so therefore 4 into 16, which is just 64 centimeter, right? So the side is 16 and also the perimeter is 64 centimeter, right? So okay, so the side would be 4 centimeter. I'm sorry, the side would be 4 centimeter, And based on this, because you can see that we have to take the square root of it, right? Side would be square root of 16, that is 4 centimeter, and this would be 4 into 4, that is 16 centimeter, correct. Now now this is a very important chart, because this will help you to understand and analyze the properties of quadrilateral all at once, all at one glance, right? So if you can see that all the quadrilaterals are incorporated in this chart, starting from parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, square, trapezoid, then the special case of trapezoid, that is isosceles trapezoid, and then we have a kite. So starting with the properties, we have the property A as opposite sides parallel. So we say that in a parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, square, trapezoid, all the opposite sides are parallel, except in a trapezoid and isosceles trapezoid, only one pair of opposite sides is parallel, right? So that is why we have a tick mark here. For the second case, we would say opposite sides are congruent. This is also true in a parallelogram, rectangle, square, then rhombus as well, right? And again, in isosceles trapezoid is like a trapezium in which opposites, one pair is parallel. This one pair is parallel, that is you all can see AB will be parallel to CD and AC will be equal to BD. This is sixth one, isosceles trapezoid, right? Where one pair of opposite sides are equal. Opposite angles are equal. So angles की बात आती है, then trapezoid has no role into play in that, nor the kite. So you would say when opposite angles are equal in parallelogram, rhombus, rectangle, and square, because these are special quadrilaterals, as we named them in our previous class, or special parallelograms, rectangle, rhombus, and square. Then diagonals also bisect each other. Then in a rhombus and a square, the diagonals bisect each other at right angles. This is a very important property. In a rhombus and a square, the diagonals are perpendicular to each other. That is, diagonals bisect each other at right angles. Right. Now, the major difference, if you analyze between the rhombus and a square, is that in a square the diagonals are equal, but in a rhombus the diagonals are not equal, right? This is what is a one important difference. Then we already know that the angles are not right angles in a rhombus, because when you push the square you get a rhombus, right? Then this is the major analysis of the properties. And in a kite you will say just the diagonals are perpendicular and one pair bisects the other, but we'll not include that here. So this is the only tree diagram ka properties which you have to keep in mind, because when you understand this from a glimpse, you get to know that okay, you can compare the parallelograms, rectangles, and rhombus with each other, right? And then comes the important tree diagram. This is what I was talking about, that you can analyze this and you have to remember all the properties and uh, the characteristics of each and every quadrilateral, which makes them unique, because that is what is the purpose of this chapter. So that once you know these chapters now, once you know these properties now, these will be helpful for you in our higher grades, because these are the basics which we are learning now. ठीक है? So parallelogram से start करते हैं. We know what is a parallelogram. Again, that both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So A, B, C, D में opposite sides parallel होते हैं, opposite sides congruent भी होते हैं. One pair of opposite sides are parallel and congruent. If both are parallel, then one has to be parallel and congruent. Then says diagonals bisect each other. So we know, like in a parallelogram, diagonals bisect each other and consecutive angles. So all these properties of a parallelogram we have to remember. And we have already discussed that polygon can have n sides. So we are just talking about a quadrilateral, that is polygon with 4 sides. ठीक है, उसके ये bifurcations है. So parallelogram, kite, and trapezoid are the 3 major bifurcations of a quadrilateral. Rest are the special cases. That is, when we talked about special parallelograms, we know like rectangle, rhombus, and square. They are the special parallelograms, right? Then kite के लिए we know that both pairs of consecutive sides are congruent but opposite sides are not congruent. Like in this case we would say adjacent are congruent. This is the kite, right? So in a kite, let's say PQRS, QR will be equal to RS and PQ will be equal to PS. Right, diagonals will be also perpendicular to each other. Right, perpendicular to each other. Correct. And exactly one pair of opposite angles are congruent. Exactly one pair of opposite angles are congruent. That's it. Now we know what are those angles. Angle Q and angle S are congruent, right? So this is what is a kite and all properties of a kite. What is a right kite? What makes all properties of kite and has a right angle. Basically, any one angle is a right angle, then it's called as a right kite. Right kite, right? Okay. Now we have already discussed these special parallelograms, right? In detail we have talked about their properties, but it's good to have a cumulative result in the form of a tree diagram, because you can now classify your parallelograms, you can now classify your quadrilaterals in a specific manner, right, along with its properties. Then we have trapezoid. So isosceles trapezoid and right trapezoid. As I said, isosceles trapezoid is in which non-parallel sides are congruent. Non-parallel sides are congruent, right? So these are very important results, and as I said, like in a trapezoid in which non-parallel sides are congruent, we know like it's like an isosceles, na? So in an isosceles triangle also, you know that angles opposite to congruent sides, angles opposite to congruent sides are equal. So here angle D would be equal to angle C, like in case of an isosceles triangle. So here the congruent sides are AD and BC. So therefore angles opposite to them will be equal, right? So base angles are congruent, right? And diagonals are also uh, congruent in an isosceles trapezoid. So these are the properties which we have to remember, and in a right trapezoid as well. In a right trapezoid is just a trapezoid with a right angle. That's it. So it will have one pair of sides as parallel. This is like a right trapezoid, right? This can be like L, M, N, O kind of, right? So this sums up with this entire chapter of quadrilaterals, wherein we talked about parallelograms, kites, and all of this in detail. And we had a clear understanding of how they are also useful in real life, and how they can be, classified as a special type of polygons. So quadrilaterals are just four-sided polygons, and then the story begins. It's a very simple chapter, interesting and scoring chapter from examination point of view. So there are some practice questions which I'm giving you all, like regarding to square and its properties. So I hope you all will solve them and we will discuss it in our next class. That is when we'll be starting off with the next chapter, which sums up this quadrilateral. So till then, keep watching Ask IITians lectures, and till then, like stay safe during this pandemic, because and follow like the precaution and all the safety measures, because like this is not this is a serious situation in which we are in. So till then, take very much good care of yourself, and see you all in next class. Thank you.